Have you ever felt like you're just one paycheck away from a crisis? One unexpected car repair, one medical bill, and suddenly everything feels like it's spiraling out of control. It's a stressful way to live, and it can feel like true financial freedom is a distant, impossible dream. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful blueprints for financial wisdom isn't from a modern guru, but from a story thousands of years old, right in the book of Genesis? Today we're diving into the incredible story of Joseph, a man who went from a pit to a palace, from a prisoner to a prime minister. We often remember him for his coat of many colors or his dramatic family reunion, but there's a powerful, often overlooked part of his story that makes him, in my opinion, the Bible's very first and finest financial planner. His journey holds the keys to not just surviving, but thriving, by applying God-given wisdom to our finances. Let's set the scene. Joseph has been through it all. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Yet through it all, his faith in God remained unshaken. It's in that prison where his God-given gift of interpreting dreams comes to the forefront. When Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the world, is troubled by two bizarre dreams, one of 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 skinny cows, and another of 7 healthy heads of grain being devoured by 7 thin heads, no one in his kingdom can tell him what they mean. Finally, Joseph is brought from the dungeon to the palace, and here's where it gets interesting. Joseph doesn't just interpret the dream, he gives Pharaoh a complete, actionable financial plan. He says in Genesis 41, God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. So what was Joseph's divine strategy? It's laid out for us in Genesis 41 verses 33 to 36. This is our core lesson for today. Joseph tells Pharaoh, "Now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh, to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country, to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine." Let's break this down into 3 powerful principles we can apply to our own lives right now. First, the principle of the 20% rule. Joseph advised taking 1/5, which is 20% of the harvest during the abundant years. This wasn't a random number, it was a specific strategic plan. Think about it. In times of plenty, it's so easy to increase our spending. We get a raise, we buy a new car, we get a bonus, we go on a bigger vacation. We fall into a trap called lifestyle creep. Joseph's model challenges this. He says, when God blesses you with abundance, the very first thing you should do is set a significant portion aside for the future. For us today, this is the principle of paying yourself first. Before you pay your bills, before you buy your groceries, before you spend on entertainment, can you commit to setting aside a portion of your income? Maybe it's not 20% right away. Maybe you start with 5%, or even just 1%. The key is to be intentional and consistent. This is an act of faith, trusting that the remaining 80% or 95% blessed by God will be more than enough. It's about building a buffer, a reserve, for the inevitable, lean years that life throws at all of us. This isn't about hoarding, it's about wise stewardship. Second, the principle of strategic saving. Joseph didn't just say, "Hey, save some grain." He gave a detailed plan. Store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This was organized, centralized, and purposeful. The savings had a specific job: to sustain the nation during the famine. How does this apply to us? It means our savings need a purpose. Are you saving for a down payment on a house? For your kids' education? For retirement? For an emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses? When you name your savings, when you give every dollar a job, it becomes much more powerful. Instead of a vague pile of money, you have a targeted tool working for your future security. Joseph's plan had a clear goal, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. Your emergency fund has a similar goal, so that your family is not ruined by a job loss or a medical crisis. Your retirement savings have a goal, so that you can live with dignity and generosity in your later years. Be strategic. Don't just save. Save with a specific plan and purpose in mind. Third, the principle of wise leadership. Joseph didn't just give the plan, he embodied the wisdom and discernment needed to execute it. Pharaoh recognized this immediately. He said, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Pharaoh put Joseph in charge, and Joseph managed the entire operation. This teaches us that financial freedom isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about character. It requires discipline, foresight, integrity, and wisdom. We are the leaders of our own financial households. We need to ask God for that same spirit of wisdom and discernment. Wisdom to know the difference between a need and a want. Discernment to see past the clever marketing that screams, "Buy now." Integrity to stick to our budget even when it's hard. And the leadership to guide our families toward a place of financial peace. This isn't about being perfect. Joseph wasn't perfect, but he was submitted to God, and he allowed God's wisdom to flow through him. We can do the same. Pray over your budget. Ask for God's guidance on big financial decisions. Invite him to be the CEO of your finances. When the famine hit, just as God had revealed, Egypt didn't just survive, it thrived. People came from all over the known world to buy grain from Joseph. Because of one man's faithfulness and God-given wisdom, an entire nation and the surrounding world was saved from economic collapse. And in a beautiful turn of events, this very plan is what led to Joseph being reconciled with the same brothers who sold him into slavery. His wise financial planning became the instrument of his family's salvation. Your journey to financial freedom might feel long. You might feel like you're in a pit of debt or a prison of financial anxiety right now. But remember Joseph. His story proves that no situation is too dire for God to turn around. God gave him a plan, and he wants to give you one too. Start with these principles. Embrace the 20% rule, or whatever percentage you can start with, and pay yourself first. Be strategic with your savings. Give every dollar a name and a purpose. And lead your finances with wisdom, discernment, and integrity, always inviting God into the process. Financial freedom isn't about getting rich. It's about being a faithful steward of the resources God has given you. It's about creating stability so you can be more generous, less stressed, and better positioned to fulfill the purpose God has for your life. Joseph's story is our proof that with God's wisdom, we can turn seasons of abundance into a legacy of security for the lean times to come. You can become the Joseph of your own household. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this message blessed and encouraged you. If you found this helpful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more content that connects faith and daily life. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What's one step you can take this week to apply Joseph's principles? God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.